From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Friday morning. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for kicking off your day and the weekend with us too. Our Friday friend Miller is here. Handy notes in hand.
A lot of stuff going on.
Ready to tell us all about that heat.
Yeah, record yesterday. We tied it here in Billings. We beat a record yesterday in Livingston. Could see another record tied today here in the Magic City, and maybe a record tomorrow in Miles City. I hope you're taking notes. There's going to be a test at the end of the show today. It's a beautiful start out there, I'll give you that, but it's milder than normal. We should be in the upper 50s to start. We were in the low 70s earlier. Well, we're down into the upper 60s, still warmer than normal. 69 at the airport, humidity at 45%, winds out of the southwest at about 7 miles an hour. Going to crunch some numbers here. Yesterday, there's that tied record of 100. We tied that from back in 1990. Good 17 degrees above average. Even our overnight low well above average as well. And we talk about record highs. We could see some record warmth in the morning too. Yesterday, a top gust near 30 miles an hour. Could see that again today. A very dry start to July. Not seeing any rain yet. And for the year, we're well over, I think, 3.6 inches in the whole. And that number is looking like it's going to grow. In fact, it looks like we're going to be very dry at least for the next 14 days. And for the summertime, we're trending to be drier than normal as well. Temperatures across the viewing area right now moving west to east. We've got 50s, 60s, and 70s. Highs today mainly in the 90s. You'll see a lot more 100s across the board this afternoon. We'll see some increasing cloudiness today. That's going to give us just a slight chance of rain, but we'll have a lot of sunshine to start to warm us up. We'll try to get up to about 100 today here in Billings, which would again tie the record on this Purple Friday, Victoria.
Yes, a great cause behind it, marking 1 week out from Relay for Life of Yellowstone County. If you haven't been a part of it, it's something to at least go and observe at least once, because, you know, they say everyone knows someone who's been impacted by cancer, and so whether that's a loved one who's passed away or a survivor or you yourself, it's a great cause to support. All the money raised by the teams actually goes to cancer research. It helps out the cancer survivors and cancer patients and their caretakers, and so money goes so far in this fundraiser, and it's a great one to see, and it's a night of fun too. It's a very upbeat, uplifting experience, and emotional too. Emotional just because I do like to take the time myself to think about the family members and friends who have passed away and lost their battle to cancer, and so it's almost like you're spending the night with them for one more time, and so that's why I love Relay.
Cool, and that is next Friday?
Yeah, next
at
week,
Billings
Friday.
West High School?
Yeah, Billings West High School, the track over there, 24th Street West in St. John's, and actually St. John's is going to be renamed for one night, Survivor Lane or Survivor Avenue or something like that, so it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, so if you happen to drive down 24th Street West next week Friday, you'll see all the luminaries lit up, and it'll be beautiful.
Very special time.
Beautiful. Yes, it is. All right, Miller, well, we do have some news, so I will get on to it. Thanks.
Okay.
Our top story this Friday morning, the extreme heat is being blamed for scores of deaths in the western U.S. alone. Now, medical officials are worried as millions of Americans are set to hit the road and travel in harsh heat conditions this holiday weekend. CBS's Laura Podesta has the latest on what we can expect heading into the 4th of July.
The scorching temperatures in the Pacific Northwest have moved inland. Doctors are trying to keep up with the emergency.
We saw folks who were arriving with heat stroke who had to emergently be rapidly cooled, packed in ice in order to get their body's temperatures down.
Around 100 deaths have been attributed to weather in the western U.S. alone, nearly 500 in Canada. Many of those who died from heat-related illness were alone in houses and apartments lacking AC or fans and couldn't leave as temperatures skyrocketed.
Nationwide, the weather is expected to cool slightly as 48 million Americans hit the road this July 4th weekend. AAA estimates the Independence Day travel volume will be the second highest on record.
Most will be traveling by car, but if you're flying, prepare for gridlock inside the airport.
We brought extra folks on overtime to staff the checkpoints.
Officials also remind you to wear a mask. They're still required by federal law the moment you step foot in the terminal. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
AAA predicts the national average for gas will remain above $3 a gallon, the highest prices in 7 years. Of course, we're expecting record temps this weekend in Montana as well. That's why Governor GIANFORTE just signed an executive order to help Montana farmers struggling through one of the driest summers in memory. More than 90% of Montana is abnormally dry, and close to half of the state is considered to be in a severe drought. The governor's order allocates maximum assistance to the U.S. Department of Agriculture to be spent on drought-related costs. Governor GIANFORTE says the goal is to secure economic assistance from the federal government in a timely fashion. That drought and wildfires go hand in hand. Crews were able to get control of a fire burning more than 2,000 acres near Miles City yesterday. It started on Wednesday south of Foster Creek Road and grew steadily until Thursday afternoon. As of now, the fire is no longer active. Fire crews remained on site through the night to monitor the fire. Local law enforcement is not messing around with fire danger. They're reminding everyone planning on hauling boats and trailers this weekend to make sure their safety chains are tied up. Safety chains are legally required to be hooked onto towing vehicles before someone can drive away with the load. Officials say if the chains are left loose, they can drag across the highway, causing sparks and potentially lighting fires along the way. As always, law enforcement asks people to use common sense and be safe this holiday weekend. A woman was killed and a man was injured when the semi-truck they were traveling in rolled west of Broadus. The pair was heading west on Highway 212 yesterday when the front tire of the semi blew out. The vehicle crossed the center line, went off the left side of the road, and ended up on a barbed wire fence. The passenger, a 64-year-old woman from Texas, died in the accident. The 56-year-old man who was driving was injured but was not taken to the hospital. Drugs and alcohol did not play a role in the crash. Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney will serve on a select committee to investigate the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Cheney will be the only Republican to serve on the 13-member panel. She says she's honored to serve on the committee after being appointed by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Cheney said what happened on January 6th can never happen again. She promised to hold the people responsible, accountable in a professional, quick, and nonpartisan manner. This committee was formed after Republicans blocked an effort to investigate the riot with an equally GOP and Democrat committee. A former Kalispell Republican legislator has officially announced he's running to represent Montana in the U.S. House. OLSZEWSKI is throwing his name into the mix. He says his conservative voting record shows he's the best fit for the position. Former Republican Congressman Ryan Zinke and Livingston Democrat Lori Bishop have also announced they are running for the congressional seat Montana earned in the 2020 census. Also making headlines this morning, the death toll in the Surfside, Florida building collapse has climbed to 18. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden made a visit there yesterday. They met with first responders, paid their respects at a wall of hope and memorial, and spoke with families who are missing loved ones. The president pledged the federal government will cover 100% of the search and rescue costs for the first 30 days. Federal executions are on hold until further notice. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced the moratorium so the Justice Department can review policies and procedures for capital cases. This moratorium can end at any time, and it doesn't stop federal prosecutors from seeking the death penalty. In fact, the Biden administration recently asked the Supreme Court to reinstate the original death sentence for the Boston Marathon bomber. The Boy Scouts of America announced a massive settlement for tens of thousands of child sex abuse cases. The $850 million agreement with lawyers for an estimated 60,000 victims is part of the organization's effort to keep operating after declaring bankruptcy in 2020. The bankruptcy filing was an effort to stop hundreds of lawsuits and create a fund to compensate men who were molested by scoutmasters and other leaders when they were kids. The settlement would become one of the largest in U.S. history for cases of sexual abuse. The Supreme Court ended its term with two opinions along ideological lines, including one in a key voting rights case. The High Court ruled 6-3 that the Arizona Republican Party's restrictions on voting are lawful. As CBS's Natalie Brand reports, the ruling has major implications for voting laws in all states.
On the last day of its term, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld two hotly contested voting laws in Arizona. One throws out ballots cast in the wrong precinct. The other restricts who can deliver absentee ballots.
That's historic, quite frankly.
Arizona's Republican Attorney General Mark Brnovich, who defended the laws in court, claimed victory.
It also affirms that states have the ability to enact common sense election integrity measures, and that's what this is all about.
Democratic Party officials had argued the measures disproportionately impact communities of color. But the court's conservative majority ruled the measures were, quote, modest burdens that did not violate the Federal Voting Rights Act. In her dissent, Justice Elena Kagan wrote the court was once again weakening the landmark voting legislation from 1965, saying, what is tragic is that the court has damaged a statute designed to bring about the end of discrimination in voting.
We're talking about limiting ballot collection. That has a severe impact on someone that lives, for example, on a reservation in Arizona without access to mail in their home and lives many miles away from their polling place.
The ruling comes as a number of Republican-controlled state legislatures have introduced sweeping changes to voting laws in the wake of the 2020 election.
For people who wanted to challenge restrictive voting laws throughout the country, they cannot be excited about this ruling. It's not a good ruling for them.
In a separate 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court also said Thursday that California cannot require charities to disclose information about their top donors, saying it violates the First Amendment. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
California had argued the information, including names and addresses of top contributors, was necessary to prevent fraud. The IRS is currently dealing with a backlog of tax returns from 2020. A new report finds there are still 35 million unprocessed tax returns. That's quadruple what it was at the end of 2019. A majority of those returns are people waiting on refunds. The IRS is behind because they are also dealing with stimulus payments, pandemic changes in tax credits, budget cuts, and fraud. Surprise medical billing is largely coming to an end. That's thanks to new rules put in place by the Biden administration. The rules are made possible by the No Surprises Act, a law Congress passed last year and former President Donald Trump signed into law. It will restrict excessive out-of-pocket costs when people unknowingly get emergency or non-emergency care from providers outside of their health plan's network.